Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into a really hilarious cartoon-style story about how trying way too hard to avoid a trick might actually make you play one on yourself. It's a classic tale, and it perfectly illustrates how our own wild imaginations can sometimes turn into our absolute worst enemies. So think about this for a second. Have you ever tried so hard to avoid a prank that you actually ended up pranking yourself? Imagine being a known practical joker. You absolutely love pulling fast ones on your friends. But today, you're visiting those exact same friends, and you are 100% convinced they're plotting their grand revenge. I mean, what would you do? How far would you actually go to protect yourself?
Okay, let's jump right in. Our story kicks off on a crisp autumn day when our main character arrives at a grand chateau in Picardy. Now, if you're wondering, a chateau is just a fancy French word for a really big country house or castle. Our smartly dressed guy arrives, cane in hand, ready to greet his buddies. But right from the get-go, something just feels off. Instead of a normal, casual, "Hey, how's it going?" his friends give him this massive, exaggerated welcome. He literally says they embraced him and made much of him, as if they expected to have great fun at his expense. This over-the-top, princely reception instantly triggers a nagging suspicion in his mind. He's thinking, uh-oh, look out, they definitely have something in store for me.
And you know what? That suspicion carries right on into dinner. This perfectly shows how paranoia can totally warp your perspective. Throughout the whole meal, everyone is laughing way too loud. Their mirth or amusement just seems completely over the top to our hero. I mean, they're having a great time, but to him, it feels like the dinner of doom. He is absolutely convinced that all this excessive laughter proves he's the victim of some meticulously planned joke.
You can just picture him sitting there, super rigid in his red coat. As the evening drags on, he becomes incredibly watchful. He's restless, kind of like a hunting dog scenting game in the air. He distrusts literally everyone and everything, even giving the servants the side eye. Finally, it's time for bed, and the entire laughing household insists on escorting him down the corridor to his room. They call out their goodnights, he shuts the door, and boom, he's completely alone. But wait, he hears whispering and muffled laughter echoing out in the hallway. He realizes they must be spying on him through the keyhole. So, he knows he needs to take immediate action to protect himself. But the really big question here is he actually safe in this room?
Well, he doesn't want to find out the hard way, so he goes into full-blown detective mode. He comes up with a step-by-step survival plan to secure his surroundings. Step 1. He lights every single wax candle on the mantelpiece so he won't get caught in the dark. Step 2. He meticulously closes the heavy wooden shutters and draws these enormous velvet curtains. And Step 3. He literally drags a heavy chair in front of the window as a barricade. Nobody is sneaking in from the outside, that's for sure.
After creeping around and searching every single corner of the room with these short, anxious little steps, he turns his attention to the centerpiece of the room, the bed. To his paranoid mind, it looks highly suspicious. What if they rigged a cold shower to dump from the ceiling? Or, what if the second he lies down, the mattress just sinks through a hidden trapdoor in the floor? Deciding the bedstead is an obvious dangerous trap, he decides to take action. He grabs the edge of the mattress gingerly and very slowly draws it toward him. By the way, gingerly just means with extreme care or caution. He's terrified of triggering whatever invisible tripwires or traps he's convinced his friends have set up for him. So, to completely outsmart these imaginary pranksters, he pulls the mattress, the sheets, the blankets, the whole shebang, right off the wooden frame. He drags all of it into the dead center of the room, facing the door, to make this improvised, supposedly safe little camp on the floor. He blows out all the candles, slips under the covers, and after a solid hour of anxious waiting in the pitch black, he finally falls asleep. He is out cold when suddenly, crash! He is violently jolted awake by a heavy body tumbling right out of the darkness and landing smack on top of him. And if that wasn't enough, at the exact same time, a burning liquid splashes all over his face and neck, accompanied by a deafening crash of plates that echoes like a falling cabinet. It's pure chaos. Smothered beneath this crushing weight, he's absolutely terrified. He thinks the prank is finally happening. He reaches out in the dark and feels a face with whiskers. So he reacts instantly, throwing a wild punch at this face, but he immediately gets hit with a hail of blows right back. A completely hilarious, frantic fistfight breaks out in the soaked bedsheets until our hero finally manages to scramble up and run out into the corridor in his nightshirt. All that crazy crashing and shouting brings his friends sprinting down the hall. The door flies open, the morning light pours in, and they discover the hilarious, completely cartoonish truth.
It wasn't a trap at all. The poor, dismayed valet, the household servant, was literally just bringing him his morning cup of tea. Because our guy had dragged his bed into the exact middle of the floor in the pitch black, the valet tripped right over him, spilling the scalding tea and sending the whole breakfast tray flying.
So, the grand irony here is that he pranked himself. By trying so incredibly hard to avoid being the butt of the joke, his wild, paranoid precautions like closing the shutters to block out the morning light and sleeping right in the middle of the walking path actually caused the exact ridiculous disaster he was trying to escape. Man, his friends must have laughed at him for days.
Okay, let's take a quick cartoon vocab break to lock in some of the cool words we learned from our story today. First up, chateau. That's a large house or castle in France. Mirth means amusement or laughter, exactly like what his friends were doing at dinner. Gingerly means making very slow and careful movements, just like how he nervously pulled that mattress off the bed. And finally, dismayed means horrified or discouraged, which is the perfect way to describe that poor valet tripping in the dark.
This brings us to the absolute most important takeaway of our explainer today. Even the cleverest mind can be outwitted when it is clouded by suspicion and fear. The really crucial point here is that letting paranoia take over and control your imagination can easily turn you into your own worst enemy. Our hero was a super clever prankster, but his own fear completely clouded his judgment.
Thanks for hanging out with me for this fun little explainer. I want to leave you with one final thought. The very next time you feel a bit paranoid or you start thinking someone is plotting against you, just stop and ask yourself, are you actually keeping a clear head, or are you letting your imagination run wild and setting yourself up to trip the valet? Catch you next time.